Hey guys, welcome back. It's your host, Steven Martinez. Welcome to the American Dream podcast. We have a very, very special guest, Gabriel Najeras, with me. Thank you so much for coming. It's an absolute honor.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here and to be able to, let the world know about the American Dream.
Absolutely. The American Dream is definitely not dead. I think sometimes the misconception of, people having an opportunity and coming here, sometimes it kind of like fades away, but it's alive.
Well, a lot of people unfortunately don't believe in dreaming anymore. Everybody's more into facts and let's see what's real or not real. And they say dreaming is not real. And I don't believe so. I believe dreaming is what it's all about. It's about being able to have that vision and to go forward with it.
Absolutely, 1,000%. So for any of our viewers that doesn't, they never met you, they don't know about your story, what would you say, is kind of your tribulations as to where you are right now?
Well, let's see what we got, about 5 hours worth of proof.
Yeah.
No, well, I'm originally from Mexico City.
Okay.
I was born back in the 60s, 1966 to be exact. And it was a time and era when people with handicaps just didn't really have much of a future. So I, not only had to struggle with the being born in a country that didn't allow for any opportunities, but also with a handicap, that made it 10 times worse. So my at that time my future was pretty much null and zero until I started growing and my parents figured out that I had something between my ears besides the wax growing in there that it was worth developing. That there was a mind in there that was hungry for learning, and so they started seeking out an opportunity for me to be able to have an education. And again, Mexico had none, so they looked towards the United States, and the U.S. did have an opportunity here for me. Which was a school for handicapped kids, where they enrolled me in that school, where it had dormitories there, so I lived there 9 months out of the year during the school year, and would go back to Mexico with my family for vacation. After doing that, I graduated from high school in the top 10 of my school classmates, class of 5,000, and from there I went on to college to study computer science engineering.
Beautiful.
And from there, the story was just on and on with many opportunities, doors opening, and being able to take a hold of the opportunities, make something of them, and making the American dream come true.
I love that. I know the shirt says, "Si yo puedo, tú puedes."
Si yo puedo, tú puedes.
If I can, you can. What kind of brought that concept? What made you want to engage in that particularly?
Well, actually, there's a lot of story behind it, which I usually tell at my conferences that I do, which is something I've been doing with the American Dream. Is I'll be participating as one of the speakers there. And in my conference, If I Can, You Can, I talk about how from the moment that I was born and no opportunities to today, everything that I've accomplished, which I've been the owner of 4 different companies, which were very successful companies. Amazing. My very first company was a computer company that I had to start, and I said I had to because when I got out of college, nobody would hire me. Nobody would hire me because they would look at me and say, well, how are you going to work the computer? And I'd be like, well, I already did it. I did it in high school. I did it in college. Come on, what else do you want?
Yeah.
And let us think about it. And they'd say, we'll call you, don't call us, type thing. And eventually I got tired of waiting to be hired. So I said, well, if nobody's going to hire me, I'll just start my own business. And that's what I did. I started a computer business, which is very successful. I had it for 22 years. And from there, I developed 3 other different businesses. And I got to a point where in my life, I was, successful enough as a business person, as an entrepreneur, that I was like, okay, there's got to be more to life than just, doing business and making money. And I had the opportunity one day I went to a store to buy some supplies for the office. And as I drove there, because I drive my own car, and I drove there and parked my car outside the store, I went inside, bought the stuff that I needed to buy, came back out carrying the bags of the stuff that I bought, walked up to my car, opened the doors, got in the car, and as I went to go close the door, I couldn't close it because somebody was holding my door, and I turned around and looked at who was holding my door, and there was a lady, and she standing there looking at me, and I was like, "Excuse me, could you open my door? I got places to go, and things to do." And she just looked at me still, and then I looked at her, and I noticed she was crying. She had tears in her eyes, so I turned around and looked at her and said, "Well, okay, can I help you?" And she said, "Well, I just want to thank you." I said, "Well, thank me for what? I ain't doing anything. I just came to buy the stuff, And she was like, "No, I want to thank you." She said, "Because you don't know this, but," she said, "I'm parked in the car behind you, and I've been sitting in the car for the last 30 minutes. I'm with my son. My son is 18 years old. He quit school when he was 16 because I'm a single mom, and I've been raising him by myself all his life. And when he quit school at 16, he went to, wash dishes at a restaurant, and he feels like his life is not worth living anymore. So he's ready to quit. And we've been sitting in the car arguing for the last 30 minutes because, I was trying to talk to him, and, hey, you can always go back to night school, and you can always take computer courses and this, and that. But he just kept saying, no, I don't want to. I'm ready to give up. But then all of a sudden, as we were arguing, we turned around and it just happened to glance and saw your car coming. By the way, you got a nice car, and your car caught our attention. And we wanted to see who was driving, that nice car. And so all of a sudden, you pulled up right in front of us, and we just sat there and we waited to see who was going to get out of that nice car. And so all of a sudden, you got out from the driver's side. And there's nobody else in the car with you. You're by yourself. At that moment, she said, my son stopped whining and complaining and turned around and said, "Mom, why am I complaining?" She said, we sat there in the car and waited the 17 minutes that it took you to go in and out of the store, and then we saw you coming out by yourself, carrying the bags the stuff that you bought. There's nobody with you. And then you walk back to the car and open the driver's side again. And at that moment, my son said, "Mom, look at that man. He has no arms. He's short. His feet are turned upside down. But he's got a smile on his face like he doesn't have a problem in the world. Why am I complaining?" And the lady said at that moment she felt like she had to come run and catch up with me and tell me, the story, because she felt like, I needed to know that I saved her son's life.
Wow.
Just by being there.
Just doing an errand, just going to the grocery store.
Being myself, doing what I do every day.
Yeah.
Which to me is just my routine. I don't see anything special about me driving a car. I don't see anything special about, all the things that I do, just because in my mind, I don't really see myself as being handicapped. I just see myself as just like any other person. And my mind, I do everything with my feet. Everything that you do with your hands, I do it, but I do it with my feet. My feet are my hands, and with my feet, I cook. like I said, I drive my car. I wash my clothes. I iron my clothes. I've even flown an airplane. And people are like, "Wow, really? Yeah, really."
That's awesome.
And to me, it's just like doing anything else in life. You just get behind the wheel and do it. Or like they say, you just get on the horse and ride. And so, when the lady came in and thanked me, and I was like, "Dang, what do you say?" I was speechless, and so I just turned around and I said, "Well, thank you for telling me the story," And then the guy, her son, walked up to my door also and told me also thank you, and then he said, "I learned something special from you today," and I was like, "Really? What did you learn?" He said, "Well, I learned that if you can, I can too." I was like, wow. So I thanked him also, and said, I appreciate it. And we parted ways. And this was back when the internet was first starting. There wasn't much social media. I think, a couple of the social media channels had just gotten started. Never heard back from either one of them again. I hope that maybe one day, hey, if you're watching this video, be sure and look me up on Facebook.
Yeah.
But I've never heard back from them again until, but that day I went back to my office and I was like, man, I can't believe what just happened. I wonder how many more people's lives I've touched or how many lives I've saved, perhaps, just by being who I am.
Absolutely. And
those words that kid told me that day, I learned that if you can, I can too. I was like, man, I've got to do something. And that's when I sat at my computer desk, and all my employees that were there in my office that day, I sent them home and told them, hey, go home and don't come back till Monday. It was a Friday afternoon, and I said, enjoy the time that you've got with your family, with your friends, and just enjoy life, make the best of it.
Absolutely.
And I sat there on that computer from that Friday until that Monday, just typing and typing and typing and typing, and it became my first book that I wrote. I've written 2 books in my life, and that was my first one, where I basically just wrote an autobiography of everything that I've done from the day I was born to that moment and that encounter with those people. And I figured, if I could change one life, at least one life,
yep,
by reading my story. And my first thought, I'm a computer geek, and at that time I was like, man, I've got this computer company, the internet's up and running, I'm going to post this book up there and see how many people, I gave it away for free. I was like, I'm going to see how many people will read it and maybe change their lives. And that's when I discovered that throughout all the years, I was a good, entrepreneur. I was a good business person because I made lots of money, with the businesses that I had. But I learned that really was not my purpose in life. I learned that my purpose in life, the reason why I'm here, and the reason why God put me on this planet and brought me in this body, was to change lives. So if I could change at least one life a day, I always say I'm fulfilling my purpose.
That's beautiful.
And that's where If I Can, You Can came up, and I figured at that time it was time for me to stop. I've always had to spend my lifetime showing people that I could. Mm-hmm. People always looked at me and thought that I never amount to anything, that I'd never be able to do anything with my life. And at that moment I realized, hey, no, now it's time for me to tell the world that I've done it, now it's your turn, and you can do it too.
Absolutely. So let me ask you a question. When you're going through these moments of, doubt and people kind of doubting you, what was your mindset at the time? How do you overcome certain obstacles when people see you that way? How do you prove people wrong? For someone that goes through problems, people are like, how do I get over this? What was your secret to really overcoming and really proving people wrong?
Well, first thing I always say is everything's in your attitude. Okay, attitude is everything. I mean, how you look at life and how you think about life, and what are you looking at and what are you seeing. And from back in my childhood days, I have an older brother. He's a year older than I am, and then I have a younger brother who's 4 years younger. And as I was growing up, the first 4 years, just me and my older brother, he always got all the toys. When it came Christmas time and birthdays, he got all the neat toys. I mean, you name it, he got it. And all I got was books. People would give me books thinking, that they couldn't buy me toys because I wasn't going to be able to play with them.
Yeah.
And so, I spent a lot of time saying, hey, look, I want to play with toys, so I'd have to go and ask my brother, hey, can I play with your cars? Can I play with your trains? Can I, and my brother was, yeah, cool, come on over, let's play. My brother, he didn't see me any different either because, we grew up together. And so he knew that, anything that I wanted to do, he'd hand it to me or my feet, and I'd take off with it with my foot, or my feet. So my mind was always set to, how can I do this? How am I going to be able to take the toy and play with it like he's playing with it with his hands? And from that moment, from that space and time in my mind, it's always been, okay, I can do this. And my mind was trained to divert everything to my feet, like you do with your hands. Well, now as I've gotten older, my mindset is, okay, you say there's a problem, I say there's a solution.
100%.
You look at things and you may say, okay, I can't figure this out, I've got a problem. I'm like, no, you don't have a problem, you just have to find the solution. There is a way to get it done. And so my mind is still in that time frame of, somebody walks up to me and says, oh, you can't do it. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You tell me I can't or you can't. Okay? Because you may be able to judge what you're capable of, but you can't judge what I'm capable of. So excuse me, get out of my way. Let me show you how I'm going to get it done. And when somebody comes up to me and says, oh, I can't, I'm saying, wait a minute. You can't, or you just don't want to. I said, don't tell me you can't. Because to me, saying you can't means you have a problem. And if you're telling me you have a problem, I'm going to tell you I've got a solution. Okay, so don't tell me you can't. Now, if you tell me you don't want to, okay, that's a different story. I'll believe you. You don't want to, hey, fine, don't do it. Get out of my way. Excuse me, let me do it. That's always kind of my way of, okay, you don't want to, excuse me, get out of my way. Coming through. I've got a life to live, and life is too short. And I don't want to waste it saying I can't or I won't, but I want to say that I came through life and fulfilled all my dreams. I want to say I came through life, made a difference, changed lives, and whatever's on the other side, the next step that I got to take after this life, then let's go forth and conquer it too.
And you had this mindset pretty much being brought up as a kid, just being instilled, you want to prove people wrong, you want to find the solution, not the problem.
That's right. I'm not really trying to prove anybody.
Uh-huh.
I just want to get it done. I want to have fun.
Yeah.
And that's what life is about.
It is.
It's about having fun. It's about enjoying it. It's about, taking the time that you're here and making the best of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to make the best of the time I've got. I've already spent, today I'm 57 years old. I've spent 57 years, and I don't know how many I got left, so, I want to make the best of what I got left.
Absolutely. I say the same thing to a lot of people. We have one life. How can we maximize, our time here? How can we create, we're speaking about it, create a legacy, impact people, change people, one act of kindness, having respect, having the right attitude, I think is very crucial in life. Having said that, was there any moments, because people have their ups and downs, of course, right?
Of course, life is a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Let's ride it.
There you go, I love that, let's ride it.
Let's ride it.
What was one obstacle, I guess, in your life, or something that was kind of pivotal in your life where you're like, man, maybe there's self-doubt, or maybe there's an obstacle or a challenge, how can I overcome it? How did you overcome it? If you have any experiences like that.
Oh yeah, I have plenty. I mean, as a child, as an adolescent, as an adult, I mean, every day's a challenge, and every day's, okay, how can we overcome this and that and the other? Everybody always say, what's the worst, rejection or experience that you've had? And I turn around and ask them and say, are you single? Are you single?
Oh, am I single? Yeah, I'm single.
You're single?
Yeah.
You've been rejected?
I have been rejected. Yeah.
Hey, it hurts, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
That's the most painful thing that I've ever had, is the rejection. Because to me, whether they're rejecting me, I don't know if it's because they don't like my personality, or because of the handicap, the body, or because of I'm bald, I'm not tall enough, or I don't know. It's always, why am I being rejected? But it's probably more more emphasis against myself than probably you have against yours. Mm-hmm. But I think rejection is always the biggest problem. I want to say, I don't want to say problem, but the biggest thing that we all have to face, and we all fear the most, and yeah, it hurts.
Absolutely. So in that case, how did you deal with rejection?
How did I deal? Well, at first, the first couple of tries, it was like, that hurt, yeah. Until one day, somebody told me, hey, there's more than one fish in the sea. I'm like, you're right, there is. Excuse me, get out of my way. I got more fish to fry.
There you go.
And so that's how I overcame it. I always said, there's more opportunities out there, so don't get bogged down in just one. One of them said no, no biggie. There's plenty more out there.
Absolutely. I always like to tell myself no means new opportunities and new options. So, when someone says no, all right, there's a different opportunity and new option somewhere else.
There's plenty of opportunities out there. Life is full of them, and that's what I always tell people. That life is about taking the opportunities and making something with them. Don't let the opportunity pass you by, because when you let an opportunity pass you by, trust me, someone else is going to take advantage of it. Someone else is going to make something of it if you don't, and then you're going to sit back and regret, and you're going to say, oh man, I wish I'd have, oh man, why did I? I'm like, no, that's not me. you show me an opportunity, I feel like there's something good in it, something good in it for me, something good in it for you, then hey, let's go. Let's do it.
Absolutely. So when you're, take us through your childhood in Mexico. How was that like, being in Mexico?
Well, I lived in Mexico City for the first 5 years.
Okay.
And that, I want to say that really wasn't much time to spend there, because that's the time really when you're at home. You're not really out in the world or living in it. So I can't really speak much of living in Mexico City. I have gone back as an adult and have spent some time there. Now in the city, in the world, and the culture has changed quite a bit. They're now more open and more wanting to help people with handicaps and providing opportunities more so than they did when I was a kid. When I was a kid, in the 60s, people who had handicapped kids, they would hide them. They would take them, put them in a closet, lock the door, come back 20 years later, and he still got the handicap, let's shut the door again, and come back later, or send them off and go live somewhere on a farm, at a ranch, with grandma and grandpa or some uncles out there, and then go back and visit them 20 years later and see if they've changed any, see if they got cured. And I tell people, being handicapped is not a disease, okay? It's not contagious. So far I've never walked up to anybody and got close to them and their arms fell off or anything. And it's like it's not a disease. I'm not going to get cured. Yeah. Okay, being handicapped is just a different lifestyle. It's a different way of living. What I mean by that? You grab everything with your hands, I grab it with my feet. So what's the big deal? We both get the same thing done. Or it may take you 5 minutes to do it, whereas it's going to take me 10. Hey, just take a drink a cup of coffee. And wait while I'm finished. But back in the days in Mexico, the minds were very close-minded, and basically because people were not educated to the point of saying that people with a handicap doesn't mean that they're not functional. They just have to find a different way of doing it. And that I had to live with my first 5 years in Mexico, where, like I said, my brother got all the cool toys and I got all the books. Yeah. But hey, I learned something from the books.
Absolutely.
And my brother, well, he got to play with the cool toys.
Do you feel like, I guess from your upbringing to now, in terms of accessibility with the handicap, was that always an issue, like growing up? Do you feel like that's something that as a community that people should work on in terms of having things more accessible? Because you mentioned Mexico was pretty much outdated, they're uneducated, they didn't have things that were accessible.
It was. Used to be. They're pretty much, they've grown up a lot and they've changed a lot of things, and now they're more structurally able. But I'm not big into saying let's treat the handicapped people differently. Let's give them all these special attentions. I mean, come on, just because you're handicapped doesn't mean that you should have that much special accommodations, other than enough accommodations so that you can also do the same task that anybody else. To me, that's my point. If, like I said, if it takes you 5 minutes, it takes me 10. Well, hey, give me the extra 5 minutes so I can get it done. Okay. Or like people say, the handicap parking spaces. Why should handicapped people be able to park in the front and have a bigger space? Well, there's a lot of people who need to open the door all the way so they can get their wheelchairs out or get their walkers out, and a lot of people in a wheelchair, it takes them a little bit longer to push the wheelchair into the store. So why make them park at the other end of the store? Why not in the front? It's cool. Give them a little more leeway, so that they don't have to take 30 minutes to go across the whole parking lot. And then you got maniacs driving through the parking lots that they're not going to see the wheelchair because they're a little bit lower than somebody who's walking, so they're going to be more likely to get hit than someone who is walking. So in that sense, let's be a little more logical and say, okay, they do need a little more space, and then let's provide them with the handicap spaces. I used to have a friend of mine that he used to get so mad when people that were not handicapped were parking the handicap stickers. And he went out and made these decals, these stickers, they were pretty good sized stickers, and it had a picture of a wheelchair, and then on it would say, "Do you really want to be in my space?"
Oh, wow.
And when he sees somebody parking in a handicap space that didn't have a permit, he would see them physically get out of the car and notice that they were not handicapped. Then he would walk over there and put that sticker right on their windshield, to where you can't see unless you take the sticker off, And it's clear. I said, do you really want to be in my space, in a wheelchair? Because let's be conscious enough to say, hey, look, okay, I don't really need it. I can walk, And I myself, I have my handicap place, but I don't always park in the handicap spaces myself. I don't mind parking, a little bit of ways because, hey, I can use the walk,
Yeah, the exercise.
I can use the exercise, so, and I don't mind it. And usually I'm not in a hurry, so I don't need to get in and get out of the store, that quickly. So, hey, yeah, I'll park a little bit, and I'll leave the space for someone who really does need it.
So in your life, did you ever have like a key mentor or someone that really impacted you and kind of helped make you the man that you are today?
My parents have always been very, very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
When I said to my parents, pretty much, I guess, were my mentors, and that they always supported me and said, hey, you can do it. Just try it and try and try. And they always supported me. I mean, they paid for me. They lived in Mexico while I lived here. And,
wow.
at the school that I talked about, they paid for me to be, at the school, which, making money in Mexico is not like making money in the States. So they had to work twice as hard. Both of them had to get out and work, not only to support me and my lifestyle here in the States, but, my two other brothers, and pay for their college and everything. And they were always the example for me of how hard they try, that I needed to try just as hard, and that I needed to get out there, and if they busted their butt for me, then I needed to do the same thing, to go out and work myself so that I could have a life, a future. And nowadays, I'm the one that supports them.
I love that.
They always thought that when I got older, when I was born, they thought I was going to forever be dependent on someone, and that someone was going to always have to be there for me to take care of me. They never realized that I was going to be totally independent, which I am. I'm totally independent. I don't need anybody to do anything for me. So, and now that they're in their 70s and 80s, and I'm the one that's financially stable enough, I can now support them and help them and everything that they need. Mm-hmm. And that's the way life should be, give and take.
In terms of, I guess, what we're building with the American Dream event, right? Our goal is to help and inspire and impact the Latino community. Are you also involved with the Latino community? I know you did some TED Talks, which is really awesome, by the way. But I guess my question to you is, in terms of what you want to do with Si Yo Puedo, Tú Puedes, what's the big goal? What's the vision?
Well, Si Yo Puedo, Tú Puedes is showing the Latinos and really showing the whole world, But we're going to talk about Latinos because, I do my conferences, a lot of my conferences in Spanish. I maintain, being bilingual. I'm 100% bilingual in both languages. So I do spend a lot of time in the Latino community saying, Si yo puedo, tú puedes. Come on. Just because you came from another country doesn't mean that you can't do anything. I mean, you've got just as many opportunities. And trust me, I've heard every kind of excuse. People tell me, oh, well, I can't because I don't speak English. I'm like, hey, look, you don't need to speak English to know how to cook. You can be the best chef in the world and not know a lick of English, okay? So don't tell me that you can't do it because you don't speak the language. And don't tell me you can't learn English because you can. Yeah. You just got to take the time and do it.
Absolutely.
And don't tell me you can't, do something because your skin is a little darker than mine, Hey, we're both from the same place, so don't tell me you can't just because, you feel like you're discriminated. You're not discriminated except by your own self. When you walk into a place, and like I said a while ago, a lot of life is your attitude. And as a Latino, I've seen many Latinos walk into a room with their head up high, and people treat them like kings, okay? And I've seen other Latinos walk into a room with their head down and walking around, and people treat them like trash. Why? Because of your attitude. It's not about the color of your skin or what your last name is or what country you came from. It's about who do you think you are and how high do you want to be. Do you want to climb the ladder, or do you just want to stay at the bottom? Either way is your choice. Either way is fine with me, because it's your life and your choice. But I tell people, hey, look, it's much better at the top.
Yeah.
Or the view is much better from the top.
Absolutely.
That's why I always tell people, you really want to see, go to the top of the mountain, and you'll see at the top of the mountain how beautiful the valley is below.
That's beautiful. So for Si Yo Puedo, Tú Puedes, are you going to launch that into South America too, like go into Central America?
Well, I'm ready to go to Central America. I go all over the world.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been down to Argentina, Venezuela, not Venezuela, Colombia, Panama. I've been all over Central America, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala. I've been all over Mexico. I've gone from coast to coast and from border to border, driving. I drive to a lot of places in Mexico. And I've been all over the U.S. I've been over to Italy and a couple of other countries over on the other side. I say on the other side of the lake over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't have any limits as to where I can go.
I love the concept, because it's so simple, but it's so important, to live life to the fullest. And I think the message that you bring is so impactful, and I really admire and respect that. And as cliche as it might sound, some people really don't. They don't live their life to the fullest. They kind of just live through life, but they're not living life. And I think it's so important for people to really understand that anything is possible when you put your mind into it.
Right. Well, the hardest part people have, from what I've learned, is they don't have their purpose in life. They haven't figured out why they're here. I always tell people in my conferences, we're all here for a reason. You weren't just here by accident. You're not here just because your mom missed the count or something like that. We're all here because God has a plan for everybody. And we're all one piece of the puzzle. And if you ever put a puzzle together and there's one piece missing, it's twice as hard to put that puzzle together, because you don't know which piece is missing. But when you got all the pieces together, you can put it together and make a beautiful picture. And we're all here as one piece of the puzzle. So figure out where you go, what's your place in this life, what it is that you were meant to be. And when you get that done, opportunities just open up like crazy. You start seeing life totally different and saying that, hey, wow, life is worth living. I've got a reason for being here, and I know I can do everything that I was meant to be, that I was meant to do.
Beautiful. Whenever you're at conferences and you're doing questions and answers, what's some of the questions that you kind of got thrown at you where you're like, okay, this is a good question? Have you ever
Man, I get thrown all kinds of questions, especially with kids. Man, I love kids.
Yeah.
Kids, they don't have no shame.
Yeah.
They'll ask you anything. I love it when I'm in the school. There's always got to be one hand that goes up, and I'm like, and I can see the smile on his face. Okay, what do you want to ask? And how do you go to the bathroom? And they're like, I was like, no, it's a good question. Come on, he's curious. He's got to know. And I tell people, don't be shy. Raise your hand. If you don't know something, ask. If you don't ask, you'll never learn. Parents make the mistake of telling their kids, shut up, don't ask. Don't ask. And I'm like, no, don't tell them that. Let them ask. Let them, figure it out. If they're curious, if they ask, it's because their brain wants to know.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, let them know, Now, of course, in adult settings, the biggest questions I always get is, what's always been your biggest challenge? What has been your biggest challenge in life? And I'm always telling them, my biggest challenge, like I told you earlier, is teaching people to overcome rejection. I tell people, don't judge me by what you see. Give me an opportunity. And I say that in life for everybody. Give everybody an opportunity. Give them a chance to show you what they're made of. Give me a chance to prove to you that I can, that I am capable. Give me the opportunity so you can see who I am. And by that, you'll see, and then you can judge me and say, yes, he can, or no, he can't. But I get all kinds of questions, and I always enjoy my audiences because I get so many different cultures, and I can tell by the cultures, that their way of thinking and the way that they're brought up, that the kind of questions that they ask.
So for you going into like different countries and different cultures, what has been probably like your worst experience and your best experience whenever you're
worst experience is when you go to a country and you don't speak the language and you gotta have an interpreter. I don't like doing conferences with interpreters because they do the best they can, but they don't give that my character. They can't play my character. So I've got to say, hey, yeah, come on, let's go, let's do it. And the interpreter says, hey, yeah, come on, let's do it. And it's like you don't get the same message across.
Absolutely.
So that's been my worst experiences, in my presentations. And my best experience is always when, at the end, people walk up to me and all they want to do is just put their arms around me and hug me real tight. Some of them come up to me with a big smile on their face, and some of them come with just tears just pouring out of their eyes. But they all, they want to hug me, and they say, gee, thank you. I'm glad I came to see you. I'm glad I came to hear you. You don't know how many people tell me, oh, I wasn't going to come, but, my wife, told me that I needed to come, and if I didn't come, she was going to divorce me. So, she brought me here. But man, I'm glad I came.
It's always interesting whenever I bring different guests. Everyone has a different story, different challenges, different tribulations, but they all have one thing in common, which is the mindset. And I really admire that, the way you push through life, push through your obstacles, and you achieve. You're like, let me do it. I'll show you. I'll prove you wrong. And I love that because that's something that was instilled to me as a kid as well from my parents. They came from Colombia. They got divorced when I was like around 12, 13. My mom cleaned houses. And building the American dream was all about impacting and changing and educating a community that so desperately needs it and craves it. They've just never been given the chance. And it's kind of that moment where like, let's show the world what you guys are capable of. Let's create this amazing event to really promote ourselves as a community. And at first it started with nothing. It was just a vision. So I was, like you said, I was dreaming it, right?
That's where it all starts. It all starts with a dream.
It all starts as a dream. And I said, you know what? I'm going to execute. I'm one of those people, when I do something, I go 100% in. I'm always committed. So we were able to establish that. I'm very lucky and honored to have you involved to speak in June. I think it's going to be a really amazing event.
Yeah, I look forward to it. It's whether it's Hispanics there or Americans or Asians or whatever nationality, it doesn't really matter. The American dream is the American dream of being able to come into this country and be given the opportunity to prove yourself and to prove to others that, hey, life is worth living, and life is what you make of it. You can have a good life or you can have a bad life, but it's up to you. It's up to how you want to pursue it and what it is that you make of it. And I always tell people there's nothing in this world that can stop you except yourself. Your mind is the only thing that can stop you. A lot of people are like, well, I can't do it because they won't let me. Excuse me, okay, they won't, but they will.
Absolutely. How important do you say it's to have a relationship with God?
It's everything. To me, I get that asked too in my conferences. They say, "Well, what's the role that God plays in your life?" And I'm like, man, God is the air that I breathe.
Amen.
God is the light that shines my path.
Beautiful.
And God is the soul that lives in me, that gives me the strength to get up in the morning, go forth, and rest at night.
That's beautiful. For anyone that's viewing and kind of just tuning in, what would you say is kind of like your final words to the viewers? Anything else that you want to say, like a last message?
Does that mean I'm running out of time? Well, I don't really have final words because I hope that they come to the event.
Absolutely.
And at the event, they can hear the final words.
There you go.
But I do always tell people that, hey, don't give up on your dreams. Let's do the best that we can do. My dad always said, hey, I don't care what you are when you grow up. He always used to tell me you can be a carpenter, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be a bricklayer, a shoe shiner. So it doesn't matter what it is that you want to do with your life, but just be the best one. Be the best shoe shiner, or be the best doctor, or be the best lawyer.
Yeah.
But put your best effort forward and go after it. That's why I like to tell people, don't stop in the middle, or at least start. I don't believe in failure. Failure to me is not it's not a word in my vocabulary. Failure is someone who doesn't even try.
100%.
If you're at least trying, there's no way you can fail.
Absolutely.
If you're trying, eventually you're going to accomplish your goals. And sometimes there may be something that you may need to ask for a little help, and that's okay. It's okay to ask for help. You don't. I've learned that in my life too. I went after the world and tried to conquer it by myself. And learned that it's too big of a world out there for just me. So I had to turn around and say, hey, can you help me? I need a little help. The pie's too big, and I can't eat it all by myself. So it's okay to ask for help. But don't give up. Don't quit. Just keep trying and keep trying and keep trying, and eventually the rewards are going to be there. Beautiful. And the winner is not the one that gets there first. The winner is everybody who gets there.
100%.
Getting to the finish line makes you a winner. Everybody thinks, in a race, it's always about being first, and no, it's not. It's about being in the race.
And finishing the race. I love that.
That's what the race is about.
And enjoying the race, too.
Oh, you're going to enjoy it if you're in it. I have no doubt. I haven't met anybody who got in a race and they're like, oh, man, that is the sorriest race I've ever... Maybe because they didn't win first place, and that's what their goal was, to win first place. But, if you're in the race, you're going to enjoy it.
Absolutely.
You're going to enjoy it, and you're going to keep going at it until you get to the finish line. And otherwise, there's no failure. You can't. I learned something else from another speaker one time. I like the word impossible.
He said he likes the word impossible.
Yeah, and now I say it too. I like the word impossible.
Why is that?
Well, because if you take the word impossible and you split it into two words, you take the first two letters, says I am, what's left?
Possible.
Possible. So what are you saying?
I
am possible. I am possible.
Everything is possible.
So I love the word impossible. Give it to me anytime you want, and I'll always split it in half and say, I am possible.
Beautiful.
Because everything is possible. You can accomplish anything you want in life. You just got to get out there and try it. Get out there and do it.
Beautiful, brother. I really appreciate you tuning in. Guys, if you are coming to the American Dream event, we are hosting it. Gabriel will be speaking June 20 and June 21st here in Houston, Texas. If you want to find out more about the amazing conference that we're doing, go to americandreamevent.com, and I'll see you guys for the next show. Thanks.